March 5, 1984, Bishop Desmond Tutu was consecrated as the first black Anglican bishop of Johannesburg. He became a prominent voice in the fight against apartheid and later won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1984. March 5, 1960, the Sharpeville Massacre trial began, where anti-apartheid activists were prosecuted for their roles in protests against past laws. This event highlighted the brutality of apartheid and galvanized international opposition to the regime. March 5, 1975, Egypt reopened the Suez Canal for the first time since the Six-Day War in 1967. The canal had been closed due to conflicts between Egypt and Israel, and its reopening marked a step toward economic recovery. March 5, 2012, Egyptian authorities announced the discovery of a 3,000-year-old tomb near Luxor, shedding light on ancient Egyptian burial practices and art. March 5, 1970, the Nigerian Civil War, also known as the Biafran War, officially ended with the surrender of Biafran forces. The war had caused immense suffering and loss of life, particularly due to famine. March 5, 2016, militants from the Niger Delta Avengers, NDA, attacked oil pipelines in Nigeria's southern region, disrupting production and highlighting ongoing tensions over resource control. March 5, 1963, Jomo Kenyatta was released from detention after nearly a decade of imprisonment during the Mau uprising. He would later become Kenya's first prime minister and president after independence. March 5, 2008, a power-sharing agreement was signed between President Mwai Kibaki and opposition leader Raila Odinga, ending months of post-election violence that had claimed over 1,000 lives. March 5, 1889, Emperor Menelik II signed the Treaty of Wakayo with Italy, which was intended to define Ethiopia's borders. March 5, 1962, the Evian Accords were signed between France and the Algerian National Liberation Front, FLN, paving the way for Algeria's independence after a brutal 8-year war. March 5, 1991, Mengistu Haile Mariam, the leader of Ethiopia's communist Derg regime, fled the country amid a rebel offensive. This marked the end of his dictatorship and paved the way for a transitional government. March 5, 1977, Muammar Gaddafi declared Libya a Jamahiriya, state of the masses, introducing a unique system of governance based on his political philosophy outlined in the Green Book. March 5, 2011, during the Libyan civil war, NATO began enforcing a no-fly zone over Libya to protect civilians from attacks by Gaddafi's forces. March 5, 1992, the Algerian military cancelled legislative elections after an Islamist party appeared poised to win. This decision plunged the country into a civil war that lasted throughout the 1990s. March 5, 1957, Ghana became the first sub-Saharan African country to gain independence from colonial rule, with Kwame Nkrumah as its first prime minister. This event inspired liberation movements across the continent. March 5, 1966, a military coup overthrew President Kwame Nkrumah while he was abroad. His removal marked the beginning of a period of political instability in Ghana. March 5, 1965, Mobutu Sese Seko seized full control of the DRC, renaming it Zaire and establishing a one-party state. His authoritarian rule lasted for over 3 decades. March 5, 2002, the inter-Congolese dialogue began in Sun City, South Africa, as part of efforts to end the Second Congo War. This conflict involved multiple African nations and resulted in millions of deaths. March 5, 1980, Robert Mugabe returned to Zimbabwe after years in exile and was sworn in as Prime Minister following the country's independence from British colonial rule. March 5, 2009, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe issued a $100 trillion banknote, reflecting the country's hyperinflation crisis. This period saw the collapse of the Zimbabwean dollar. March 5, 1953, Sudan held its first parliamentary elections after gaining limited self-government from British Egyptian rule. This marked a step toward full independence, achieved in 1956. March 5, 2009, the International Criminal Court, ICC, issued an arrest warrant for Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir over charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity in Darfur. March 5, 1956, Morocco gained independence from French and Spanish colonial rule. Sultan Mohammed V became the country's first monarch, marking the start of modern Morocco. March 5, 1987, severe flooding struck parts of Mozambique, displacing thousands of people and causing widespread damage to infrastructure and agriculture. March 5, 2007, a major earthquake hit northern Tanzania, causing significant damage to buildings and triggering landslides in the Rift Valley region. March 5, 1998, Nelson Mandela unveiled the new South African Constitution, hailed as one of the most progressive in the world. It enshrined equality, human rights, and social justice as core principles. March 5, 2015, the African Union launched the Continental Free Trade Area (CFTA) negotiations, aiming to create a single market for goods and services across Africa.